Hi, everyone.
Hello.
We're back. And what we want to share with you today is around the topic of circumstances are neutral. And the reason we're sharing this is because we had an experience a couple of days ago when we were bringing a new car home from Vancouver that in the past would have created a lot of stress and distress in our lives, but it didn't. And we were surprised to look at how differently we respond to circumstances these days. And so we went to Vancouver to pick up a new Tesla, actually, and we were told by friends, neighbors that have Teslas, how amazing the intelligence of this car is, that when you're using the GPS to take you home, it tells you the route you're going to take and also where the chargers are, like the gas stations, and where you need to stop and how much you need to charge up in order to get home. So I was really excited to give this a try, and we got on our way and we stopped at the first place to fill up, and it said, well, just stop for 5 minutes. That'll give you enough to get to the next one, and then you'll fuel up, charge up, and go on from there. So we did that. And then as we were approaching the second one, the computer had changed and said, no, you don't need to stop here. You can keep going to the next one. And so I thought, boy, isn't that amazing how adaptive they are?
Yeah.
So we're going toward the next one, and the battery charge, there's a gauge on there, kind of like a gas gauge. It's going lower, lower, lower. And it's like, I don't see how we're going to get there. So we're going over the mountain down into West Kelowna, and it's down to 3%, 2%. And we're like, we better pull over. We are out of charge. We've owned this car for 4 hours, and we're not even home yet.
And we're stranded in the dark, high mountain pass.
And no cell service. So what to do? So for some reason, it was so interesting that we just thought, well, okay, we better flag somebody down. And we never went into that kind of panic mode, fear mode. This shouldn't be happening. It was just like, okay, this is what's happening. Darn. I mean, it was frustrating, no question about it. Did not want it to happen, but there it was. And all through the episode, which took 5 hours to get home, there was never a sense of pushback or this shouldn't happen, who's to blame, Tesla's computer didn't do what it was supposed to do, and all of that. And so we've reflected on that and have seen how when we see our circumstances in our lives as really being neutral, that they don't put a feeling in us. Because it was surprising, time and time again, how not upset I was. Because this was a big deal and it was going to cost some money. And gosh, who knows, you get this car towed. What if it gets wrecked getting towed? I mean, there were a lot of things that could be very concerning, but it never came up. So we reflected on that and we've really seen a great personal experience of how circumstances are neutral. That is, they don't make us feel any particular way. Our experience in a circumstance has everything to do with the meaning that we're giving to it, what we're telling ourselves this means. And so we feel either relaxed and okay and moving forward with it, or very resistive and tight and angry and blaming. And so it was a great, great experience.
Yeah, and what I always say to myself is, well, where is this leading me? And what is there to learn and open to live a fuller life that this experience is pointing to? So for me, it's really weird what I saw, but maybe you want to continue the story first and conclude it. We had such support from two people. A gentleman finally stopped in a big truck and took us into West Kelowna so we could call a tow truck or a tow company to come and get us and go get the car and bring us back to our home. And Bill called the first tow company, and they were so knowledgeable of Tesla and electric cars. And the young man, Mike, who came and picked us up in his big tow truck, he had years of experience working with loading and unloading electric cars and had done a lot of Tesla work. So they both touched my heart deeply and made me realize that what we share about how life works and how the mind works would really benefit these two gentlemen as well as anyone else, but that I kind of stay cloistered in my little home environment, and it gave me the impetus to reach out to people generally to be able to share how their lives could be as easy as ours in this circumstance, because we were both fine. We were both neutral. We were both open to see what we would learn. We weren't tense and, as Bill said, blaming and thinking life had it in for us. I know that life has my back. I know that life is always pointing me in a better direction, in a greater openness, in a greater evolution.
Yeah, so a couple of things really stand out for me about this experience, and how often in the past, if something like this happened, my whole focus would be on how to avoid that happening again. So what do I need to learn so this never happens again? And when I look back, I can see how every decision I made all along the way was the best decision I could make. And there are definitely things that I learned. First of all, don't go over the speed limit. It uses more charge than the computer is assuming you'll use, because the computer is assuming that you're going to go the speed limit. Okay, so that's an easy thing to learn. But the more, I think, fundamental thing to learn in terms of how going forward my life can be improved by this experience is seeing how it is that like Connie says, life has our back. The universe has our back. And so for Connie, she actually is seeing that this experience is like a springboard for her to step out into the community more, to share what she has to share. Now, most people probably wouldn't get that out of an experience like this. And for me, it's really seeing how I can fully trust that whatever shows up, if I show up in the moment without a lot of thinking about what if, into the future, what if a person stops and they mug us or something, all the kinds of things that we read about in the news could happen, that our mind clings to in an attempt to keep us safe, wanting to make sure that nothing bad happens to us. When I grab onto those kinds of thoughts, all my awareness kind of shuts down, and I'm very reluctant to step into life from there. So the conversations and the time we spent with the truck driver and it was a pickup truck, not one of the big trucks, but it was a big pickup truck, and the tow truck driver, I was thinking about the nature of those conversations and how actually they were as enjoyable as any conversation I've had at any social gathering. Getting to know these people and just the goodness of the people that they were.
Yeah, like the guy who took us into West Kelowna so we could call the tow truck, Bill offered to pay him. Mm. And what did he tell you?
Just keep it, buddy. He said, we're all here to pay it forward.
Yeah,
It's so sweet, so generous. Yeah. So, the things that we can learn out of difficulties in our lives aren't necessarily about the circumstances. And we see this all the time with people around food. If they put on weight eating a certain way, they want to change the way they eat. And that's a really good idea. But what we found, as we've said time and time before, is that so often the decisions to make poor food choices comes not from not knowing what to eat, but using food to try and relieve the pressure of whatever's going on, whatever the circumstance is, so that we don't have to feel so bad.
Well, it's really using food to relieve the pressure that we create by believing that we're in control, that we need to do something, that we have to be different. It's a kind of self-thinking and self-talk that is not true and destructive.
Right. So that's what we share with a lot of the work that we do with people around food and losing weight naturally, is that the difficulty they're having with food is offers so much more opportunity in terms of their lives becoming much easier and enjoyable. When we go deeper than just looking at the food, we do need to know what foods support the body to be healthy and to just have a natural, ideal weight. But deeper than that, when we understand that circumstances are neutral, then we begin to lose the charge. We're no longer triggered by the old things that used to trigger us and having us reaching for food. Like a lot of people in the situation we were in, if they had a bag of chips with them, they probably would consume them. True. So what we see the value of understanding circumstances that are neutral is in helping us eliminate those the tension in our lives, to really reduce the amount of tension we have in our lives that has us reaching for food for reasons other than just nourishing us.
Yeah, how I see it is we go into these places of unnecessary suffering that arise from believing the thinking that we have in the moment. And I see food and our relationship with food as the doorway to more of who we are. It has a deeper possibility than we may imagine. And if we have a food problem that we classify as a problem, that's the opportunity to really step into more of who we are. And we love working with people, showing them that what we perceive as a difficulty is really the doorway to more joy, to more fulfillment, to more learning, to more openness, to more life.
Right. So if you'd like to learn more about this idea of circumstances are neutral and begin to experience it more in your own lives, just leave us a comment or contact us down below. We'd love to get together.
Now, the recipe for today. I want to talk about grapes because we got these gorgeous grapes from the farm, and they're green and they're seedless and they're so sweet. And they are old varieties from Europe that the farmer's father planted years ago. So I looked up grapes, and 1 cup of grapes is only 62 calories. They're salt, sugar, and oil-free, and they're really high in fiber, and they have a tiny bit of protein as well. Now, the fiber is really important because that helps with the microbiome being strong and keeping our immunity strong. They're also high in vitamin C, vitamin K, which helps with blood clotting, and there's one other, vitamin A, those 3. So that's a really good thing. And one of our clients suggested taking the grapes, putting them in a little baggie once you take them off the stem and freezing them. And they make a wonderful, really healthy dessert that way. Mm-hmm. You can pull them out of the freezer and have 1 or 2 here and there. And then there's a wonderful property in the black red grapes called resveratrol. Is that how you say it? Resveratrol.
I think yes,
something like that. You've heard it before. And that's mainly in the dark skinned grapes. It's really, really good for us. It helps as we're aging to have better mental clarity. And it's good for the brain. That's the main thing. And then also it helps to regulate blood sugar. So grapes have a lot of benefit. And I encourage you to buy them, especially from a farmer, where we get them locally. They come off the vine and they're these beautiful varieties that we don't get normally in the market. So enjoy grapes this time of year.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next week.